I think at this point it's fair to say, no matter who you are, I think this is to be agreed with. GT Sport has had its fair share of criticisms. Now, this is something that creates tons of arguments. Are those criticisms legitimate? Well, that depends on the person, the argument, a whole heck of heap of stuff. But I think everyone at this point can actually agree on something, and that's that there has been a whole heck of a heap of disagreements. But, well, this might in and of itself be controversial, but I'll try to make it as positive as possible. I think I found a disagreement, I guess you could call it that has actually been for a positive for everyone. It actually has helped everyone involved because there's been a whole heck of a heap of opinions inside of the argument that have actually been agreed with a lot of people, and it seems like it's actually gone on in a way of which things have been learned and not just round and around in a circle, one person's opinion versus another. I know that sounds kind of too good to be true, but, well, for those of y'all who have never been on GT Planet, well, there's a whole heck of a heap of GT Planet threads that could be iffy on if they're too good to be true or not. That's a whole nother argument in and of itself, but I think this is probably the best example of one that might actually be truly beneficial to everyone. So, GT Planet is the best site to post your GT opinions on, and, well, there's been a lot of this here. So, well, I'll relate this to GT Sport as we go, but anyway, here we go. This thread is called Almost Had It with GT Sport, GTS, whatever. That in and of itself sounds iffy. I ain't gonna show the names of everyone, or anyone, everyone, whatever, because I think that's iffy to do in videos whether you're on GT Planet or not. So I'll just read it so y'all can make your own opinions, not about the person, but of what they say. This is a great game at its core, but I've just about had it with the online element, and the offline element is not meaty enough. That seems like a lot of people. Racing at Suzuka, trying to race clean, had a car trying to overtake me, easy enough. Gave him plenty of room, and he still forced me off, ended up in the grass, and this is where I'd say this triggers a lot of people, and got the orange SR flag. And there's no video for this post, so you just gotta have to take a word on, but this is where people probably start getting triggered. Also, in the race, car came out of Ghost while stationary right in front of me, took action to avoid him, ended up off the track, and hit him with a 10-second penalty. I assume that means the driver that could do nothing about avoiding that other car got the 10-second penalty, even though there's nothing they could do. Then I tried today's second race in the Fittipaldi, or I think it was, told the car nudes had to quit. Since yesterday morning, my SR rating has gone from S to B, and I've been racing clean throughout. I did accidentally hit someone from behind yesterday on the last lap at Interlagos, while in fourth place, gave him the position back just before the finish line, but you don't get your SR hit canceled for that. As I said, I'm going to try to not show names in this if I accidentally do, sorry, but that's why I'm sort of not going to like the very end. But pretty much to sum that up, that's actually a lot of good points in one post already. This is already starting off in a juicy way, I guess is probably the best way to put it. There's the Yieldy, is the penalty system correct or not? That's been mentioned a lot. But then there's also something that I haven't actually seen as much is if you do get your SR lowered, if you purposely slow down and be nice to the person involved that might or might not have legitimately lowered it or not, should you get it back up again? That's a whole new thing. That's a good conversation starter. I don't think anyone's really brought that up. So, well, let's continue. I ain't going to actually read through all the rest of these because that'd take forever. I just read the first one because, well, it's the first post. That's the one that's kind of going off the rest. So I'll just show it, and I'll try my best to sum it up. Here we go. If y'all need any point to pause to see it, well, this is on GT Planet itself, but in the video, just pause it, whatever. Pretty much this is saying there's a lot of people who race sort of like Ricky Bobby style. I think is do or die is probably a good reference to what that means is sort of Ricky Bobby style. If you ain't first, you're last. A lot of people do race that way. And well, with the hand of the Almighty pretty much meaning the penalty system that PD put in, it's hard to do that. And with so many people doing it, whether they're in the right or in the wrong, maybe just maybe that shouldn't be the way to go. That brings up a good argument too. Should there just be no sportsman separating altogether? Should it be fixed or should it just be deleted? That's another good argument that isn't necessarily something that's going to trigger people because it's actually sort of just saying it. It's not really like rudely or anything or just saying the same stuff over and over. And then it gets to not exactly about the game itself, but about saying stuff like this. Can these be put just into the same thread? There is on GT Planet, and I posted in it, a GT Sport whining and crying thread. But putting post in threads entails certain things, and putting them in one singular thread entails certain things. And well, that's discussed later, so let's continue. Betting, yes, but also betting more traffic lets PD/Sony know if folks are looking. I'll read the shorter ones more than summing up because that's probably easier. Again, the single thread of thousands of replies is not likely to be fully examined, but a post or a Puton, oh Lord, 1, 2, 3 page thread, Puton. That's a new one. I might have to use that. Especially spelled with an E at the end. That's yeah. Anyway, moving on. The main point of this is pretty much saying traffic entails that it might very well be better to actually have it as many threads instead of one. Because I assume, I don't know this for a fact because I don't have any of the GT Planet statistics, but I assume more people are going to look at your thread if you have it as its own thread than just the 18,456 posts in the GT Planet whining and crying thread. I don't know if that's how many's in there, but that's just a random number. I assume that is correct. So in a way, it does make sense to create a thread if you think your point is valid, so more people see it, and can create something maybe like this that actually makes a good conversation with many points in it and many different ways it can go. And then this is quoted by someone else quoting the game post going its own thread instead of me. And then there's another way of looking at it. The answer is no. You should know this by now. Posts like yours are more pointless than the rest. Again, I don't show the ending because that's where it shows who liked it and all that. That might be if it is so in a video. So, but that's just what it says. It's on GT Planet if you want to look for sure. But anyway, that's sort of a good point as well. Is that worth showing your opinion on if someone else's opinion should be put separate or all together? If your opinion itself should be shown, that's kind of confusing in a way when you sort of try to say it out, but it makes sense to the people there. Should it be its own thread or not? Saying that in and of itself is possibly creating problems. Different people would have even different opinions about that opinion on an opinion. Yeah, it sounds confusing, but it's kind of sort of a truism. And then it's quoting the thing about the thing. We don't really need another thread regulating what has been said about 800 times. That's, I mean, again, I can sort of kind of put my own opinion here, but in a way, that's sort of killing it in and of itself. And then this is the actual, like, quoting of the thing. And then this is from a moderator, so that's just sort of what you should listen to. This is quoting the should it be its own thread or not. GT Planet has no upper limit on the number of threads. So pretty much saying, if you want to make your own thread about it and you think it's a legitimate enough topic, as long as you follow the rules, you can make it. And this brings to where I start making opinions. So, well, this can be where people get triggered, I guess. If you want to dislike the video, go ahead. I had a whole heck of a heap of PD Logic disliked anyway. I'm fine with it, whatever. I'll just say this. I do remember the days back when there were threads made about similar things that were locked. Not really taken down, but you just couldn't post there, so just you see the original post and then whatever post got there and then nothing more because you couldn't post there again. To relate this to GT Sport, in and of itself, that could mean that those old ones weren't really as seen by Polyphony Digital. In reality, I doubt Polyphony Digital actually looks at the forums of a site about the games all that much, just because it's kind of hard to look through all of the pages and pages of complaints. But when it's its own thread, maybe if the original post has some good information, they might look at it. But those old ones got closed, so maybe that thought came into the minds of like the people who run the site. So that was done to make it to where maybe PD sees something that they might need to see more if it's its own thread instead of just buried in one thread. Maybe. Or it could just be it's a forum. More posts, more threads equals just bigger numbers, and that's a good thing. It's probably a combination of both. But again, to relate it to the Polyphony Digital thing, even though in the old days they closed threads, like there were complaint threads forever. I've been on GT Planet since 2013 and browsing since about 2012 or so. But back when I first joined, there were a lot of wish list threads. Mostly for GT6, hoping that it was going to be in that game. Because I joined mid-2013, like right before GT6 came out, so a lot of people were saying what they wanted in it. A lot of those got closed. I ain't necessarily going to say if that's a good or a bad thing. My opinion on this is mostly that I think it's a good thing now. Because in the old days, there were wish list threads showing stuff that maybe or maybe not should be added. I think most game companies know that more things are good. You add more things, people are going to be happy. That's something well and truly known forever. What might not be quite as known is stuff that maybe should be changed because different people have different opinions on that. I think most people can agree that any car put into a game is not necessarily going to be a bad thing. Any track put into a game is not going to be a bad thing. Nobody's going to be offended by something being added. What people might be offended with is something that is not changed. So, by leaving threads up that were posted with complaints, maybe that means that Polyphony Digital will see them and then fix the complaints. But by not closing them, that can leave everyone open to be equal. Polyphony can pick and choose which ones to go with. So therefore, the more people that actually make the complaint threads could actually be helping Gran Turismo as a whole, because the more that's there, the more feedback Polyphony Digital gets, in theory. Do we know if Polyphony Digital looks at every GT Planet thread? No. But do we hope they do? Yes. Do we know that Polyphony Digital is going to add more cars and tracks in the game? Kinda. We are expected to get 50. But in the general consensus, no. But do we hope they do? Yes. So again, this whole video in general is probably controversial, but I tried to make it as unbiased as possible. But I'll just end it with this. Again, hopefully this is unbiased, but Polyphony Digital does do what the fans say sometimes. Sometimes. And the more fans that say stuff that can be done, that they see, the more stuff they might actually end up doing. So this might on all be a good thing. I know this video's probably made some people mad, but if Polyphony Digital fixes some of the things that they think is legitimate to be fixed, maybe it'll all be worth reading through the threads and threads of general complaints in the end. And this is where I'm going to get probably the bulk of my dislikes of people still watching. You don't have to read threads you don't want to read. Just like in Gran Turismo Sport. If you don't like something they add or do, just don't do it. Do something you like. I don't know, can I get 10 dislikes on this video? Beg for dislikes. Yeah, that's like or dislike, unsubscribe, all the things you do with controversial videos. Or like and subscribe. That's good. I don't know. This video is controversial, but I think it's still worth saying. Because it might end up helping in the end. Helping in the end, I think, for most, at least the majority of people, is a good thing. So therefore, I do believe it's worth a yeehaw. Remember that yeehaw is just my opinion, though. You don't necessarily have to be watching it. But if you're watching at this point, you've kinda already. Whatever, I'll just leave it there. Yeehaw.